Welcome again to our next short reading and reflection. This one to be had in conjunction with our communion service on the 26th of August 2020. I hope this finds you well. And so a reading from the Bible, from Matthew chapter 23, verses 27 to 32. Jesus said, "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean. In the same way, on the outside you appear to people as righteous, but on the inside you are full of hypocrisy and wickedness. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, ye hypocrites! You build tombs for the prophets and decorate the graves of the righteous, and you say, if we had lived in the days of our ancestors, we would not have taken part with them in shedding the blood of the prophets. So you testify against yourselves that you are the descendants of those who murdered the prophets. Go ahead then, and complete what your ancestors started." Well, what a cheerful reading. Woe to you, says Jesus, to the teachers of the law and the Pharisees. Woe to you for saying one thing and doing something else. Well, that's what it sounds like, but it's not the whole story. What's going on? Well, Jesus is drawing quite a crowd. This carpenter from Nazareth is drawing more than a crowd, and the leaders of his day, which included those two groupings, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees, have come to eye up the opposition. Note, first of all, that Jesus is not fearful for the fight. He was more than able to speak truth to power. This is not Jesus meek and mild. Rather, he is able to be as much a political bruiser as our modern day politicians. Now, those in authority were looking on. They weren't doing it to encourage Jesus, far from it. They had seen Jesus as a threat, and frankly, they wanted rid of him. They knew, or rather Jesus knew, that they wanted to kill him. This carpenter from Nazareth had become a threat to the religious leaders and power holders, and they wanted to trip him up and get rid of him. In one way, that can't be a surprise. Jesus is the Son of God after all. And while the teachers of the law and the Pharisees did not recognize Jesus' divinity, they did see him as a political threat as much as a religious inconvenience. Remember, Jerusalem was under the occupation of the Roman army, and as the holders of political power, they didn't want to lose that. So when we hear titles such as teachers of the law and Pharisees, we're not just simply talking about those who saw themselves as the religious keenies of their day, like having served on the PCC for the past 30-odd years or so. They held political clout as well. At the heart of this passage, where Jesus is also recorded as talking about paying taxes to Caesar, as much as what marriage in the afterlife might be like, Jesus is challenging the leaders of his day about how they understood their own relationship with God working. It should be important to them, and to rightly engage at a political level too. For the Pharisees and teachers of the law to be right with God, you had to fulfill loads of rules and rituals and regulations. It was the doing of the rituals that got you right with God, even if you then went on to do something completely different afterwards. But Jesus gets fed up with them trying to trip him up. Woe to you, you whitewashed tomb. Carries on. You snakes, you vipers. And these words are not gentle Jesus, meek and mild, are they? The stuff that Jesus was getting fed up with was not only the lack of recognition as to who he is, the Son of God, but also the way they, the teachers and the Pharisees, interpret religious belief, so that it suited them financially and politically. The verses just before these, Jesus says, "You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law: justice, mercy, and faithfulness." Jesus is challenging the leaders to take a political stand on issues about justice and to show the need for mercy over that of simply going through the motions of ritual belief, such as giving a little of your herbs and spices, which good Jewish folk were expected to do at the time. Christians are often told that religion and politics shouldn't mix. Yet spirituality and politics do mix. When the need to complete religious rituals overtakes the need to make sure that there is fairness in society, which is very much a political issue, then religious belief becomes hollow. Borrow from Jesus' words, this becomes like a whitewashed tomb that looks good on the outside, but which simply contains old bones. Now, this isn't to say that a certain political view should be held, but it does mean that our belief in God needs to shape our politics, and that our politics should be evidenced in how we live out our daily lives. If Jesus were here today, I have no idea who he would vote for, but he would be engaged in the community, wanting to make sure that there was justice and mercy being shown to the weaker in society, because that is what he did. So as we hear Jesus' woes this morning, maybe it's time for us to also think through afresh how our Christian spirituality helps us to bring justice and mercy to the people in need in our society today. And as we continue to journey through this pandemic, we will find many who do feel downtrodden and fearful. From the refugee to those who have lost their jobs, who are concerned for what the future has in store for them. So may this reading be a challenge to us to think through how we can pursue justice and mercy. I think it's as we pursue justice and mercy that we are demonstrating our faithfulness to God. Living the Christian life is a challenge, isn't it? We'll get it wrong. That's why we too are in need of mercy. But that shouldn't stop us from doing what we can to pursue justice and mercy. So may this reading challenge us to think about our politics as much as to think about our spirituality today.